Um, okay. So we just got the high sign. So let's dive in. This is such an honor. We have two folks who are joining us, Kimmy and Denise, and I'll let them introduce themselves in a little bit, but they have taken on the Everesting Challenge, which is huge. And it's very few people have actually completed it. Not to usurp, but I recently did a virtual version, and I counted there were only 8,000 something people who've done that worldwide who are in the Hall of Fame. So it's a very select set of people who have done it. And so we're really fortunate to have two people who did it, kind of in our backyard at Mount Tam, which is really pretty amazing. And we'd love to learn more about it and what your experience was like and what you learned and what you might recommend, and to field questions. So the format here is, this is I should say, since we're now recording, this is the Grizzly Peak Speaker Series. And what we will do is there's a chat box as part of the Zoom feature here. So please text in your questions in the text box, and I'll keep my eye on it and then look for points either to interrupt for clarification, or we tend to pull them up, Denise and Kimmy, toward the end. So, we'll go about 40, 45 minutes based on the questions, and then, address those. And I didn't ask, we didn't check, but do you have a presentation or something you want to share?
Yeah, we do. So I'll share the screen and share that presentation.
Fantastic. All right. Terrific. Well, let me turn it over to you, Kimmy and Denise. Please introduce yourselves to everyone on the phone. We're really looking forward to this. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us. We're excited to be here. We're hoping, obviously we would love to be in the same room, and our story is a little easier to tell, but we are trying to stay with our little socially distant rules these days,
yeah,
and be better off than we, or be better examples, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm Kemi King, and this is Denise Edwards. I'll have her do a little intro in a minute. I'll just run down quickly a little bit about me, and then I'll have her tell you about you, and then we'll jump right into Everesting. I have been riding bikes for about 12, 13 years, so not a very long time. Of course, I rode as a child, but I picked them up a little bit later in life. I actually I was fortunate enough to race on the pro circuit for a little bit, and had some exciting times there. And along the way, I ran into Denise at some point on an equator ride, a World Bicycle Relief equator ride, and her and I became fast friends and became riding buddies. And there's more to that story as we go along, but I'll let Denise jump in and introduce herself, and we'll get going.
Denise, mute.
Oh, how's that? Is that
good?
I don't do a lot of Zoom, but so I'm Denise Edwards, and unlike Kemi, I have not been a pro, but I started riding my bike when I was having some issues with running. Kind of really liked it, but I'll be honest, when Strava came around, it really changed my riding, and it became so much more exciting and gave me things to kind of work on and think about. And like Kemi said, we met, and just kind of two peas in a pod, we started connecting and doing some very fun things. And then Kemi mentioned Everesting, so I'm going to let her, she's going to mostly lead this, and I'll, share some things too, but
okay.
I'll leave it at that for now so we don't take too much time.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, so hopefully this all works and you guys can all see.
Yep, we got it. It's all good.
Okay, perfect. Great. I'll dive in here. I'll start with Everesting. Most of you probably know what it is, but the great definition of off the actual Everesting Hall of Fame website is the concept of Everesting is fiendishly simple. Pick any hill anywhere in the world and complete repeats of it in a single activity until you can climb 8,848 meters or 29,029 feet, the equivalent height of Mount Everest. So we're going to go into some details of what we did and our adventures of the day, and I will give us a little bit of bragging. You mentioned a little bit as well. From the Hall of Fame, there are actually 6,987 successful full Everests. So they do count some of the half Everests. We actually, that's the number for those full Everests. So yeah. And out of that number, there are actually only 407 females who have completed it. So that's we feel like we're pretty privileged above that number. Here are our results. It's all official. These are the official results off the Hall of Fame. So we like to brag a little bit and say it's happened. It's real. This is what we did.
And we even bought the jerseys.
Oh yeah, we were supposed to wear the jerseys.
I know, you lost.
Well, we believe you. We believe you. We believe you.
When I approached, well, actually, the thought of Everesting was thrown out by a challenge by Rebecca Rush back in about April, and she challenged the Giddy Up Challenge, which was a climbing Everesting challenge. And it supported World Bicycle Relief. And I mentioned a little bit before that we both have quite a bit of involvement in World Bicycle Relief. I happen to be the director of philanthropy, and Denise happens to be an ambassador and one of my advisory council members. So we have quite a bit of involvement, and anytime they throw out World Bicycle Relief as a beneficiary, I kind of perk up a little bit more. So I had to learn more, and I'd known what Everesting was. I actually had a friend that attempted it many years ago, and I rode a couple laps with him and thought he was crazy and it was the worst I would do ever. And so I said to Denise, I think I sent her a text that said, "How crazy do we want to get?" And she goes, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, there's this Everesting challenge that I think we should do." And she said, "Well, when is it?" And I said, it's Memorial Day weekend, and we've got about, I don't know, 5 weeks to train. You want to do it? She said, "Sure." So we were in and we committed. And I'll let Denise add a little bit more to that if she wants.
Can I just say something quick?
Sure.
Basically, there was an older link that a bunch of us were on, and we're coming over now.
Oh.
Okay.
You may want to start over.
We may want to what? I'm sorry?
If you've already started, you might want to start over okay. Rodriguez. I mean, okay, Stephen C. I think most of us are on.
Okay.
Michael, well, yeah, we used a link that you had posted a week or two ago.
Yeah, that was my bad, and I thought I cleaned it up. I did not. I think we're having about 8 people come over.
Well, just 4 from the meeting we were at.
Yeah. So, how about Kimmy and Denise, just give the quick, introduce yourselves just briefly, and then this idea of Everesting, and then we can keep the flow going. Sorry, we want to keep.
Sorry about that. I just wanted to.
No, it was my bad, and I'm glad. I appreciate your persistence. It's actually an admirable quality about Everesting, is being persistent and determined. So you guys came to the right place. You fit right in.
Sure, we'll just quickly catch everyone up. I'm Kemi King, and I have Denise Edwards with me. My background is a little more, I was able to race professionally for a few years, and along the way found Denise during a ride, and her and I became quick friends and started riding and planning crazy events together. And I'll let Denise introduce herself really quickly.
Yep, Denise Edwards, and through the love of cycling, and so fortunate to meet Kemi, like-minded we all as cyclists, I think it's such a cool thing to connect on something that a lot of people think is crazy. We all know how much we get out of it, and that's been great. So we'll leave it at that for now.
I'll quickly reverse a little bit too, just to let you know, kind of Everesting you're probably familiar with. We are in the Everesting Hall of Fame with 6,987 others and only 407 women. So kind of fun numbers there that we like to throw out. There's our kind of official Hall of Fame numbers and results. And then quickly our story about how we decided to do it. We were offered the challenge back in April to do an Everesting event over Memorial Day weekend, to pick one of those days over that weekend to finish the Everesting within a 24-hour period. And we quickly decided to jump in and give it a shot. Our training plan consisted of about five weeks of hill climbs. We'll go a little bit more into that, but that's kind of where we're catching y'all up, and we'll continue from there. So this is our why not, and we figured we'd be partners in crime again on this as well. So sorry, I've kind of lost my little train of thought. I will jump. Or Denise, I was asking if you wanted to add anything to this stuff that I've already said.
You know what? I think that for now I'll let you get started. And actually, so if I'm talking about Kemi asking me if I wanted to Everest, I was like, oh my, yes. And then I think whether it was the same day or the next day, I was like, can we do this? Like, I started wondering, like, wait a minute, this is going to be a long day. And we just said, we're going to do it. It doesn't matter. We're going to just stick with each other, and we're going to just do it. So that's how kind of it started.
I'll get into a few more of the details of the planning for this. Obviously, it wasn't just ride your bike for 5 weeks and go attempt. I'd done a lot of research on which hill to climb. And my first thing was, what descent do we want to do that many times? What climb could we do that we don't have to climb 99 times? There was all these logistics of that perfect percentage, grade percentage, that length of the climb. I started looking even random places out in the middle of California that there might be a better hill that just made more sense. This was also during stay-at-home orders, so we felt like staying in the Bay Area was probably the best idea. So there were a lot of different logistics that we kind of were trying to consider as to what to plan, where to plan, how to plan. And this is the route, after figuring and refiguring and relooking and considering, this was the route that we came up with, from Highway 1 at Stinson Beach, up Panoramic Highway, to the gate, through the gate, up to West Peak. So the reason we stopped at West Peak is because on an Everesting challenge, as soon as you start to descend, those miles don't count. So we ended at West Peak. It also just made more sense, mileage-wise, logistically, for us to stop at that point. So it was a 6.2 mile distance from point A to point B with 2,300 feet of climbing. And it was also a hill that we could handle descending. So that was really kind of the theory behind it all. We had to do it 12 and a half times and consisted of 156 miles. So that was our goal for the day. Obviously, we didn't know what time that would really take us. I did go out and start training. Denise actually spent quite a bit of time in the Tahoe area during this quarantining time of ours. And so we trained a lot on our own. I would go do the route a few times a week just to make sure that I was kind of getting my figuring things out and planning things along the way and where we might want to eat and drink and consider. The other thing with this route that was so great was there was a bathroom, and those bathrooms were open. So that was the one nice thing, is we actually had a bathroom if needed. We had water if needed. We had to consider what our feed zone or base camp was going to look like, because there were no cars allowed to park along the road at this point in time as well. So the parking lot at Pantall was closed, all parking along the road was closed, and we thought, how are we going to have anyone provide, you know, support for us with all of these conditions? And we decided that, well, luckily, I'll actually let Denise jump into that one, because she was she had the answer.
Okay, so so I'm going to add a little piece to this. So as I mentioned to my husband that Kemi and I were going to do an Everesting, and he was like, good for you. I'm not going to be there, and I'll come by and see you, you know, maybe for a lap or so, but I'm not biting off on this. And this is not. So little time went by, and he starts questioning Kemi about the route. Like, are you sure, Kemi? And, you know, he's like, I want to make sure you guys have the best route. And then he started driving over there on his own. And, you know, he was like wanting to make sure. And because it was, a lot of areas were closed down because of COVID, even back then, right? He was like, well, I want to see where we can be. And he kind of mentioned to me, yeah, you know, it's right there on Pantall. And I said, wait a minute. We have this old friend who lives on that road. I wasn't sure where he lived. And I said, he told us if we're ever out his way to get in touch. So through my husband's parents, I reached out to him, and he was like, oh my gosh, you're going to Everest? You totally have to use my house. He was 1 mile up from Highway 1 on our route. And he had a steep driveway up to his house, but we set up at the base of his driveway. And my husband now is like, okay, I need to be there. I'm setting up a base camp. I'm going to get coolers, and you're going to have one with one. And so anyway, I won't even go all into it, but he was all in pretty soon. And we had this base camp set up that was incredible. And it was, I personally think it was really a lifesaver for us, because we would go up our 6.3 miles, come down. 1 mile before the finish, we would stop at our base camp, and we drank out of like red Solo cups. So we could, instead of squeezing out of our water bottles, we could chug a big, huge glass of water, or maybe 2, get some food. We had people that hung out, and he had a big area that you were allowed to park in. Cops came by, the rangers and sheriffs came by a few times, but it was his private spot. So we were all allowed to be there. And it was very, very amazing, and worked out so well. So that was our, you know, base camp, we called it.
Yeah, our base camp was our saving grace, to be honest. it all the people there, and we'll get into more of that too, but it really was, it was a lifesaver. So this was our 3:45 a.m. start with our partners and our biggest supporters who had jumped on board. I got the same kind of feedback from my boyfriend as well. He was kind of like, well, good luck. I'll just, you know, see you when you're riding. We'll come check on you. But finally, he came to it as well. He was like, oh no, we will be there. We will be driving you there. We will be making sure you were safe the entire way. They followed us while we had, well, it was dark out, and made sure that we kind of had extra light following us. The other nice thing about this route is the gate was actually closed. So we had part of the ride as a road closed. So there were a lot of things that really ended up being a huge benefit for us because of the, you know, circumstances of the time that we did this. But yeah, this is our 3:45 a.m. start on May 23rd. There we go. As you can tell by my eyes, I think we're crazy. I think we probably are crazy. So, I estimated very ambitiously that we would finish this in about 16 hours. And we were a little after that, but we're considering another now, aren't we, Denise? We gotta up our time. Just kidding. We did love the early mornings, and we actually wished we would have started an hour earlier. So wishing we'd started about 2:45, 2:30, because the time in the dark was really actually beautiful. It was really peaceful. it was just, we enjoyed that time more than anything, and we wanted more of it. So we got to see, obviously, sunsets. This is Denise and one of the sunsets. And I let Denise, if she wanted to add to that, because she kind of shared those same thoughts, that the dark time was the nicest.
Yeah, part of, so we really enjoyed, and also when we started at 3:45, although our men were with us, they dropped us off and they drove in the car behind us, it was just the two of us. And as much as, you know, if anyone's listening that was there, it was so great to have our friends come and bring energy and bring encouragement and excitement. But there is something about when you are doing something like this, you need to ride your pace. And we both just had agreed that we were going to ride together. And people who rode with us usually kind of let us lead and hung back. But there were a few times, I mean, it was a long day and people came by and rode with us. And a couple times the pace picked up, and then someone picks up, then someone else is like, well, I can pass him. And pretty soon we are also riding ahead to be with the group. And that's not, if anyone's going to do it, that's something to be like extra careful about, because you know, we had agreed, we weren't doing this to break records. We were doing it to finish and really enjoy it. And well, it's our first one. You know, if there's a second one, maybe we'll try to push harder. But anyway, with that said, I think the morning was great because it was just the two of us, and it was quiet, and we heard animals, we saw light coming through trees. There was a fire over at, where was it, Pier 39 or Pier 20 something, and we could see that in through the dark. It was very interesting. We kind of were some of the first people to have spotted it, it seemed, because the dark sky and then the bright fire, but it was amazing. And I don't know if I'm rambling here, but yeah.
It was amazing. And I was just going to say, like, the view changed every single lap. It was something different every single lap.
So and that was from this is the morning of our ride, Kemi, my backdrop. I put that in. That was looking down from where we were Everesting that day too.
Yeah, we like Denise said, we wanted to really enjoy the day and finish the day. Our goal was to finish. We had no records to crush. We really wanted to enjoy the day, and we really did. We were talking about it again today, just, you know, as we're reminiscing, as we're talking, and we're just like, we had so much fun. It was really such an enjoyable day. And as we get through the pictures, I don't think you see hardly any pictures without us smiling. We were smiling on every single lap. We were happy to be there. So, and we were very consistent. Our laps were almost like dead on consistent the entire 12 and a half laps. So it was pretty amazing to see how well we actually did kind of maintain and hold what we planned. So like she mentioned, we did have several friends join us at times. This was our largest group, but we had friends starting early with us. I think our third lap, we had a friend join us, and then we'd have sprinkles of little friends throughout the day, and we'd have, you know, a few join. But there were a couple times that the pace, like she mentioned, would start to get picked up a little bit. We're like, oh, in fact, lap 10 was a dark lap for both of us. It was lap 10. We'd been doing this for a very long time. There'd been a little bit of excitement of our friends kind of leading us a little bit too quick up the final round, up the final stretch. And I had not been fueling enough. I was lacking my electrolytes. So key point, keep those electrolytes coming. Our goal was to eat and drink at least one bottle every lap. So we would eat something and make sure we had drank at least one bottle every lap. And we were being fairly diligent with that. I just was not taking enough electrolytes in. So as we descended and I'm shaking, I'm thinking, I don't know if I can make it the next 2.5 laps. Stopped at our base camp, chugged in some electrolytes, and we were good to go again. And I have to just say to Denise, it was amazing to have my partner there that was just encouraging and strong, and the whole time it was that way. least for me.
I never questioned you, Kemi. You weren't feeling good at that moment, but I don't even think I felt like it wasn't going to happen. I just like, okay, eat, drink, and we'll go.
This is our base camp. And we mentioned a little bit about, you know, kind of what we ate and drank, but we survived mostly on banana muffins.
Okay, they were so good.
And these little rice cakes. We had a mint and blueberry rice cake that was amazing because it was a little bit something different, not so sweet, but still nice. Little peanut butter and ham or peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, mini ones, Twizzlers, peanut butter pretzels, Coke, water, and then electrolytes. Keep those electrolytes going, just news to everybody. But yeah, we really, for the most part, we would stop at the base camp, like Denise mentioned, kind of load up on some fluids, some extra fluids. So this was in addition to what we were trying to accomplish each lap. And we were really good about reminding each other to eat and drink. And this was a good point. We had a couple good spots along the way that were a little bit more of a lull that we could, you know, kind of stop and breathe and eat and consider. So that was kind of where we were at. We also had extra layers and extra clothes. We changed our bibs at one point. We changed our jerseys a few times. We had extra, you know, layers and stuff that we could store. So it was amazing to be able to have everything just available, knowing where it was, and to have it a mile from the finish, you know, a mile from the descent each time gave us that extra time to roll down that mile and breathe before we turned around and headed back up. So you mentioned we were so consistent. We truly were kind of side by side almost the entire day. There were a couple times, obviously, we had to ride single file, but as you can see, the smiles are there. We were having a good time.
Oh, it makes me want to cry. That was such a great day. I like going back and looking at these photos.
I just have to show like more smiles. I think this one was about 8 o'clock at night, and we were still, we'd been at this for many hours. We knew we still had a few many more. That 16 hours was starting to really look a little bit more like the 18 hours, just over 18 hours ride time is what we ended up overall. They count your elapsed time in within Everesting, so we were just over 20 hours total time, but yeah, our ride time was about 18 hours. So
Carolyn Winnett, it just asked, when did we do this? Maybe she didn't hear. It was May 23rd of 2020, Carolyn.
Yeah, there was a challenge thrown out in about April to do this Everesting challenge with Rebecca Rush and her Giddy Up challenge. And so that was when we decided to jump on board and and get crazy. So.
And giddy up, and you did.
And giddy up, we surely did. So more big smiles.
So I'm going to add a little something. Some of these photos of Kemi and I, another fun little tidbit is that my daughter, who's 26, and she's a very good photographer and she loves photography. And she said, Mom, I'm going to come see you, but I'm not going to stay for the whole day. And I said, honey, you don't even need to come over. It's, you know, don't worry about it. You don't have to come. She said, no. I want to come, but I just want you to know I'm not going to stay the whole day. Well, she came over and she stayed the whole day. And it was so cute because she was so moved. I mean, she for like a week told me she couldn't believe the energy of the community of people that came by, encouraged us, brought treats, brought little, you know, things to share, came by and just cheered, like, you know, with fist pumping. And so and then she took some of the photos that Kemi just showed of us coming around the bend and stuff. I think those were my daughters, but it was really fun that as a non-cyclist, she was so incredibly moved by watching the energy of everybody so excited about it. So.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, because it was incredible to have the support and the excitement. And that, I think that just kept our feel good going too. Like we had no reason to doubt other than our little lap 10 that we couldn't do this and that wasn't going to, that we weren't going to finish and that we weren't going to continue. So this
one more thing, Kemi's Garmin, or she uses a Wahoo, was a little ahead of mine, and she's like, well, we're going to keep going until you get it on yours. So that was another, it's the camaraderie and good cycling friends. Don't let other cycling friends not finish their Everesting.
Yeah, we had to see the numbers on her Garmin. There was no, which meant I got a few more feet of climbing, but that's okay. This was one of our favorite laps, actually, lap 11. It was a solo lap. The sun was setting. It really was just one of those kind of peaceful, at this point, I think we knew this was our going down. This was just after hitting West Point and back down. This was our favorite view of the entire day, all day long. And we just knew at this point we had it. we only had a lap and a half left and we were going to do it. So
Carolyn asked again, what pace were we riding? I don't remember. I mean, what would you say? 7 mile? I don't even know, but
I've got it on one of the last slides that has my results on it that shows our pace, I believe, but I think it had I want to say about 7 or 8 miles an hour with her.
Yeah, we were not trying to crush it or like overextend ourselves, Carolyn. And I don't know if you're thinking about it, but I really, depending on how strong and, how much riding you do, but I would also, if anyone wants to push, I'd say build. And then if you feel good, if you want to really continue to, push harder but not start like that and then maybe not be able to finish. So, because I have heard stories of people who got a little too excited early on and didn't finish.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
There again, just our favorite spot. It really was beautiful all day long. And it kind of just kept giving us hope each lap. All right, we're on our way down. Here we go. So yeah, continual hope. Then, I don't know. I think we're both gonna cry. I am.
Me too.
It says it all.
That was when we finished.
I know. Yeah. It was a long, hard day, but we also knew that we'd accomplished something extraordinary. And yeah. we're boobs. But yeah, it will be a day we'll never forget. And obviously we're crazy enough to start thinking about potentially doing another one. But we really did that day. It wasn't extremely hard. People say, was it so hard? It wasn't extremely hard because we kind of just set our mind to it. And it was just, at one point we're like, well, this is what we're doing today. We don't have anything else. We don't have anything else on our agenda. Let's just finish. Let's just do it.
I'm going to add in that when we finished, so just a little bit after this photo was taken, I think I was really feeling like a milkshake. I just got I want a vanilla milkshake. And my husband and I live in Burlingame, and we were staying at just a Holiday Inn there in Mill Valley. And it was late. What time did we finish? It was not
just after 11. Yeah.
So by the time we got off the mountain and drove down into town, I did go to a In-N-Out, and oh my gosh, my body, I've never felt like my body was, I don't even know if I'm going to use the right for tingling, or just, I think all my nerve endings were feeling things they'd never felt. And it was definitely something I've never experienced, but it's funny because the next day we met for coffee early in the morning. We're up oh, are you up? Are you up? Let's meet for coffee. And I felt great. But that night there was definitely something going on with my body where it was like, what have you done?
I do have just a couple more to share too, because I think we both were like, all we want is a freaking shower and cheeseburger and shake, you know, that's those are the things going through our mind. But this was the support that was with us the majority of the day, whether it was at the base camp or riding alongside or whatever it was. And on our last half lap up the mountain, we had 5 cars behind us. Not to mention, I think the other 25 cars of all the Stinson beachgoers that were not too excited about the situation. But we had
these friends of ours, and that's my daughter and my husband, but everyone seemed to have their own car, kind of like LA Story, if anyone knows that movie, and following us with their lights up the mountain. And then this is when we finished, and everyone just said, we're staying with you. This was our core group that was there early in the morning and was there late with us at night.
Yeah, it was awesome. We had absolutely perfect weather. We couldn't have asked for better weather. The conditions, like having the road closed, we were a little bit worried about more beachgoers that day because people were anxious, obviously, to get out during this time, that we thought we might have miles of cars to have to follow down Panoramic to the beach. We only had one lap where it was a little bit crowded and it really wasn't even bad.
It was right after sunset, right, Kemi? Because people come out and they park to watch the sunset. And then as the sun drops, that was when they all were leaving. I think that was when we had the most cars, but even that was not bad.
Yeah, it really wasn't bad. So we had every good luck charm in our pockets that day, I guess. So.
If anyone's ever thinking of it, I mean, you know, you guys, a lot of you live in the East Bay, and I think there's probably great choices over there, but this really is an amazing, I mean, Kemi really scouted she did all of our intel, and I don't think she mentioned it, but besides the fact that she was on a pro team, you were the director of the team, I believe, Kemi, right?
I was, yeah. I founded the team that I raced with as well. So
she's very good at route making. She's good at, you know, when you ride with her, she seems to know the way the wind is going to be coming, and that's very helpful too. So, I mean, it was really a very perfect segment for us to do.
Here's our results, and yeah, 8.7 miles an hour was our average. So yeah.
All right, I just got a text from Patrick Gordo Bueno. Patrick Gordis. He said he was crying too while we were crying.
Thank you, Patrick. And I unless you guys want to look at this more or any other slides more, let me know. We're happy to. That's kind of it. We jumped all over the place and gave you what we got, but we're happy to answer questions or share any other details. I can stop sharing this screen. I did notice a lot of familiar names out there on that. So I don't know if I know everyone, but I recognize names.
This has been terrific. I mean, it is very moving. It's so many levels. I mean, the planning, the dedication, the preparation. I mean, Denise, you're mentioning your daughter's involvement and both your partners involved and them getting more invested in this and them trailing you up there and the whole support. You know, consistent time for each lap. I mean, you guys are totally on it, and it's just very inspiring. You know, personally, I share a great deal of awe and admiration. There were a couple of questions in here. I'm just looking in the chat box. One from Tom Frazier. He asked you, "Are you going to go do it again?"
Maybe.
Our next thoughts are either we do Latros and Columbia, so we only have to do it twice, or which that one's on our list. We'll see which one happens, but
World Bicycle Relief has moved into Columbia now. We have a double reason to go out there.
We do. We got all sorts of.
Yeah, the descent could be a little hairy, though. You know.
It can. So that was the whole picking a decent descent, but we've also considered Haleakala 3 times or.
Yeah. I know that's impressive. It's good. Hey, there's another question out there about what kind of gearing did you have on your bikes?
Okay, we have different gearing. Kemi only had a 28.
Wow. Okay.
What did I put on right before, a 34, or did I think
you had a 34.
34, yeah.
Yeah.
But we did the whole thing into 28.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, so another question is, would you choose a different route if a different, other than this one for around TAM, or this was dialed in for you? It sounds like you scoped it out pretty well.
We did dial it in pretty well, and I know that there's others that have done other routes around. They've done shorter, crazier climbs where they've done 99 times or whatever. I still think I would go back to this route and do this route because it
was beautiful. I mean, every view up and down, I think that partly gave us energy, like, oh my God. And then the way the light or the sun is shining each time was just a little bit different. And each time it was like, oh my gosh, what we are doing this here. And this is amazing.
And it was kind of the perfect amount of time of climbing. Like, you hit that 6.5 miles and you were like, okay, now I'm done. I wouldn't want to go much farther. I wouldn't want to, shorter. It kind of seems like, oh, that wasn't enough. It really felt like a really great distance to
and our average grade was what, Kemi? Not even, was it 8 or was it less than 8?
What was that?
What was our average grade? It was not very hard.
It was like 7% was our average.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe, and a lot of the pros that have broken records, they've done a little bit crazier, grade percentage, and you could consider it, but I think this was perfect. And the first 2 miles was the steepest part. Once you hit that first 2 miles, then it was like, okay, here we go. Now we're just going to kind of relax a little.
Right. You get a bit of a breather, and you're not going at 11 and 12% and burn out. So
yeah,
that's great.
Kind of ideal climb.
Yeah, fantastic. So folks on the phone, you can unmute yourself and ask questions while we have Kemi and Denise here. See if there's anything else that comes up. I'll toss in a question. How did you kind of figure out what your right nutrition was? So you had your base camp, but you had to experiment and fail and succeed, I'm guessing, prior. How did you go about making that assessment?
Because I had some race experience, I've done a lot of nutrition, and I've dialed nutrition in before. And for me, I've learned that real food actually treats me a little bit better than the cycling food. So I did have plenty of that. Like I forgot to mention, we did have our own shot blocks or our own like goos, those kind of things that actually do work for us. But when it comes to actual substance, especially for such a long day, and I've done a couple longer rides, and that banana bread, zucchini bread, something like that always just seems to have the perfect amount of everything. And it's generally not too sweet that you can't handle too much of it. So I found that just over the years, banana bread has been my secret weapon. And that was definitely something that was in our pockets almost every lap. Probably were these little banana muffins.
Question, were those homemade? Or
They were homemade. Yep, they were homemade. Yeah, now we share that recipe. It's a recipe my mom's had for years, and now Denise has it. And yeah, they were really great homemade banana.
I figure, either share the recipe or give out the bakery's name,
I'm happy to share it.
Oh, cool. Hey, there was a question that I overlooked and that I was reminded. It said, how much riding did you do each week in training as you prepared? Did you kind of cycle up and then taper off, or describe some of your prep, the kind of volume?
That was kind of the crazy thing. Denise had more miles in her, and I knew that she was going to be set. She'd been riding hard and good. I hadn't been so much. So I was a little bit more worried about myself than I was Denise, because she was ahead of the game. for me, and I know we both trained a little bit differently, but for me, my goal was to just get some climbing in. I knew that this was going to be the hardest part, was just the climbing, and my body would really need that. So I kind of worked my way up. I did a couple thousand feet each day, or I'd ride to the top of Tam. I live in Mill Valley, so this is easy for me to ride to the top of Tam. I would ride that quite often. I went and rode the route quite a few times. I think I did like I spread it out as I got closer. Probably about 3 weeks out, I would do like 6,000 feet of climbing. And then a few days later, I would do 8,000 feet. And then I would taper off. And then I would go back, and I at one point hit 10,000 feet. And I thought that was my day that I was like, well, that wasn't so bad. If I can do that, I can do that 2 more times and we're good. So, and then I would kind of taper back down to a 6,000 feet. But during that time, like, it was all climbing. All of my, even if it was a short day, it was just, I'd get at least 1,000 feet of climbing in for that shorter day.
Mm-hmm. Good. How about you, Denise?
Yeah, like Kemi said earlier, I had my daughter, the one who took the photos, she had kind of said, I'm working from home. I'm going to just stay up here in Tahoe. And then she said, Mom, why don't you stay up in Tahoe with me? And I was like, oh, okay. So, and it was very interesting. It was a very warm spring up there. I remember riding in like March and April, only in a jersey and no arm warmers. And I like to be warm. It was beautiful. So I was able to really get in some really good training up there. I worked with a coach, and she was working with me, and I don't remember everything we did, but she kept giving me what I should do. So she would say, go find a climb and do. So I was doing laps on climbs in Tahoe, which I think was also helpful, just having been in elevation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
For me, this has always been my problem when I ride, is eating and drinking. I get on my bike, and I think just taking your hands off the handlebars and reaching back and getting your food and opening it up. And I think I just kind of tend to just ride. And I love it when Kemi goes like this, eat this, then I can eat it. But that's why having the base camp was helpful. But the eating and drinking is part of the training for me. And that was sometimes what my coach would say is like, today, I'm not worried about your climbing. I want you to take in this much water, and I want you to eat this much food, and I want you to figure out how you're going to do that and make it happen. So I don't know.
I also, jumping back, I just was looking at questions because I hadn't gotten to the chat yet. And I noticed we missed one that, like, our average uphill speed and our average downhill speed. I don't remember, to be honest. I think it was about 5 or 6 on our uphill, and our descending, we actually kept really mellow. We did not want to crash. We didn't want to have any problems. We really, there were cars. So we really just tried to be really mindful of our descending, and we did not go crazy on our descending, which I can descend some of those descents really quickly. They're very familiar to me, but we both just wanted to make sure we were very cautious. Last thing we wanted to do was crash on lap 8.
Yeah, exactly.
You do not want to have an issue on.
I know, and towards the bottom there are those 2 hairpins that are pretty tight, and you just don't want to, slide out on some gravel or something, especially at night. Yeah. Oh. Good. Are there questions or comments? Folks want to jump in while we have both Denise and Kemi on the line?
Tom also asked about World Bicycle Relief, and I'm happy to throw out a pitch for them.
Yeah. Tom, please. That's one I just overlooked. I'm sorry.
That's okay. There's a lot for you to see and do. I'm actually getting to some little chats. So we provide bicycles to students and healthcare workers and entrepreneurs in countries like Africa and Colombia. We provide, I can go all day long about what we do. We also have mechanics that are assigned to those areas, and bike shops that have the parts and pieces. The bicycle itself is a brand new bicycle created by Giant, Specialized Giant and Trek. I probably should start at the beginning with it all, but it's an organization that was started by F.K. Day and his wife at the time, Leah Misbach Day. He is a he was the founder of SRAM Bicycle Components. And he and his wife started this organization delivering bikes to those in need in Sri Lanka. They thought it would be a one-time deal, deliver them after the tsunami 15 years ago, and realized that there was a great need to continue to provide bicycles throughout the world to those that needed it for distance, to get them to school or to the villages for healthcare needs.
Kemi, I think it's kind of exciting, the percentage of bikes that go to females.
Yes, yeah, we actually focus 70% of those on females. There's a lot of different reasons for that, but there's a lot of safety concerns. It gives some ownership. The females actually struggle the most because a lot of them do have the majority of the jobs at the household to take care of. So it puts them getting to school a little bit later. And there's a lot of different data and research on those reasonings.
And something like a 2-hour walk becomes a 30-minute bike ride. Is that, or is it?
Yeah, it does, cuts it almost in half, a little bit more than half. But we focus on those that have like a 7-mile walk to school or a 10-mile walk to school. And to this point, we've changed 530,000 plus lives with bicycles. So it's a pretty good organization. I'd love to chat more and tell you more if you have interest. You can bug me about that.
I know another question came in. Did you have to dismount to get around the gate each time, or was it open after a certain hour?
We just rode around the gate. A little tiny dirt path. We got really good at it.
Well, off-road.
Every time you get this little bit of anxiety because it got deeper and deeper every time too. And we're just like, are we gonna crash on the stupid dirt?
I personally might have put a foot down 1 or 2 or 3 of the times around it, but
I think we both did.
Good. Other questions?
I have a question. First of all, amazing and incredibly inspiring. Thank you for sharing your incredible story with us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So you said you rode for, it was a 20-hour elapsed time and 18 hours of riding. Is that right? So about 2 hours of break time. Did you stop at all on the bike or just stopped at the rest stop?
It was just at the rest stop, other than the one time on the lap 10 at the top when I was losing it. I just need to stop for a minute. I just need to like regroup, find myself, figure out what might be wrong with me. And I usually laid on the ground. And then I was like, okay, let's just go down. Let's just get down and get me some electrolytes. So, but yeah, we stayed, other than that base camp. We did have a couple times that friends would join and they'd want to talk, or they'd kind of gather. We'd kind of slow up for a minute, or we'd stop for a minute. But for the most part, it was our only stops were at that base camp.
Okay. I have one more question if I could.
Yeah.
I haven't ridden that route a whole lot. It's been a long time, and I'm wondering what it would be like these days with the road open and traffic. What's your thoughts on that?
The top portion really is never bad, even though it's, even when it's unlocked, the top portion really is never too bad. It depends on the time of year and how things are. The bottom can get backed up with people going to the beach. It can be backed up from like that stop sign at Stinson for 2 miles or more up the road. So that would be the only thing. As you're descending, you can run into some of that traffic. But it depends on the time of year. Like now we have such amazing weather. We don't, other than it's dark so late and so early still, that you'd be riding in the dark a lot. The other concern, which I know we didn't have this problem, but there have been others who have ridden the same route. The gate technically closes and you're not supposed to go past that gate at sunset. So they have had people that have been kicked off the mountain, or they've kind of had to plead their case. I'm doing this Everesting, you can't stop me now. I've only got 1 lap left. So that is a concern to think about.
Thank you.
What was that, Denise?
I said we were preparing what we would say if they told us we couldn't continue.
Yeah. So summer is the best, except for then you run into some traffic in the summer. So it's kind of that's why I think actually starting early, they're not patrolling that early. So if you were to just start midnight, they're not going to catch you in those morning hours. And so then you'd be finished by the nighttime.
But another reason I think is in the summer, you know, the roads are drier, and that's possibly something to, you know, because I think if you're Everesting, you're not going to be hammering down the hill, but definitely want to make sure it's not too moist, and because if there's a little bit of moss on the side of the road or whatever, but dry roads.
Of course, the fog would might give you some problems.
Yes.
In the summer.
Well, and we ran the risk of that. Like we could have had any kind of, in fact, 3 days before I was training in the rain, and I'm like, oh gosh, I hope we don't have this. But yeah, you never know what to expect.
Hey, I have a question that came in just with a few minutes left. It's from Marianne, and she asked, did you make any changes or adjustments to your bike or gear for this ride? Like maybe carry just one water bottle instead of two, or battery packs, or even use a relaxed position. Did you make some adjustments?
I did change my cassette to a 34. I did that, but I think we always carried 2 water bottles. We probably only should have had one, really.
Yeah, we always had 2. We did carry battery packs for Denise had one for her Garmin, and I had one. I used my Wahoo, but I also used my phone so that I would have, like, this is not something I wanted to mess with. And I did have a battery pack for my phone. I actually had like 3 charged and ready to go. Like I could just keep plugging my phone in if I needed to, but it held strong.
Yeah, good. That's terrific.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are just about the end, and I want to just extend, a lot of thanks, admiration, gratitude for you guys joining us today. We had 27 Grizzlies on the line, and really, really appreciate your being here and sharing your story. Very inspirational on a lot of levels, and the camaraderie between you two is so fantastic to see. Really encouraged each other. That's so fantastic. Let's see. So I want to just thank you. We do, as part of our speaker series, I'm going to include a link here. If people have feedback, we'd love for you to share that, and we'll forward it on to Denise and Kimmy. I'm sure it is all, good smiles, good vibes from this. This was terrific. And so our next speaker series is on next Thursday, a week from Thursday. We're going to have the Major Taylor Iron Riders. They're from New York, and they're going to talk about inclusion in cycling clubs. And we have their club president, Darica Barnes, join us. And it's going to be super interesting. I've heard them a couple of times on Velo News podcast, and they're inspirational in a very different way. I also want to thank Tom Fraser for setting all this stuff up.
It's going to be at 3 in the afternoon. So
yes, thank you. At 3, because it's East Coast. They're from New York. Thank you, Ron. But also thank Tom Fraser for setting this all up. He's having audio issues, so he can't speak. He's been on the line here. So we did a quick, me subbing in, but really thank you, Tom, for getting this all arranged. He arranged to connect with Kimmy and Denise, and so we're really thankful to you, Tom, for taking that step. And thank you all participants for joining and taking time out of your busy lives to check this out. This was terrific. So thanks again. Complete the survey, and we'll catch you another time. And Denise and Kimmy, we'll catch you on Strava for sure.
Maybe
Thank
we'll
you.
be in person someday, Michael, and Grizzlies, and we'll ride with you guys in East Bay.
All right. Fantastic. Let us know when you're over.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thank
Excellent.
You all.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all.
Thanks so much.
And Tom, if you're out there.